Welcome back to another Spirit Island video. In this video, we're going to be continuing our series, Is This Spirit for You? In this video, we'll be focusing on the NI spirit, Hearth-Vigil. Hearth-Vigil is going to start with 3 presents on the starting board, 1 in the highest number with Dahan, and 2 in the lowest number with at least 2 Dahan. Add 1 Dahan in each of those lands. This is one of my favorite rules about Hearth-Vigil because it's the only spirit in the game that will start with 2 extra Dahan on your board. And I think that's a very cool and thematic way to, I guess, create spirit diversity. And these Dahan are supposed to represent additional survivors of the invader's disease. Hearth-Vigil is meant to be the spirit that protects the Dahan from diseases, and I guess you guys can read all of this lore. Let me do that so you can pause it and read it. But yeah, like Hearth-Vigil is like the protector of the Dahan, from my understanding. So Hearth-Vigil also starts the game with 1 energy. It is I think there's a couple spirits that start with 1 energy now, but Hearth-Vigil is leading the charge. Oh, and I believe the warrior aspect starts with a Dahan as well. I'm not entirely sure. That's something. Let's see. Yes, so the warrior aspect does start with a extra Dahan as well. Looking at the playstyle, Hearth-Vigil is very good at protecting Dahan and its lands, not so great at stopping Blight. In keeping with its nature, largely brings Dahan to its presence or vice versa. Getting Dahan elsewhere may require a bit of forethought with keep watch for new incursions, and that's that right innate here. And this is it's so accurate, and I think it's one of the reasons why I really enjoy Hearth-Vigil is the the puzzle of moving Dahan is actually very intricate. With Thunderspeaker, it's very just point and click. Hearth-Vigil, you really need to think about every single Dahan movement, and it's one of the reasons why Hearth-Vigil is in my top 5 favorite spirits in the entire game. So Hearth-Vigil, it's very reactive with reliable ways to deal with invaders as they ravage and build, but has trouble handling established cities that aren't ravaging. It is a moderate complexity spirit. Looking at the summary of powers, it has pretty high offense, low control, pretty high fear, the highest defense, and the highest utility. And I think this is fairly accurate summary of powers. It generates, I believe it's 5 fear across its cards. Defense, I kind of put a question mark. I think they're factoring that defense based on the this left innate here, and I'll talk about that later. It's a weird way of viewing defense, but I can definitely see why they may think that. Offensive, you do have a couple offensive cards. You have a single control card, and utility, you have that special rule, as well as one of your cards that will act as utility. Let's look at our starting uniques. Starting off, we have Call to Vigilance. This is a 2 energy slow power. It's a sun air animal. It is 1 range from a land with Dahan. It gives you 2 fear if invaders are present, and then for each Dahan in the origin land, push up to 1 explorer or town. If you're familiar with Called Isolation, which is a minor power, it's essentially a reverse Called Isolation. It's actually pretty balanced. I think Called Isolation is one of the best cards in the game. But so Call to Vigilance is it's saying it's checking the number of Dahan in the origin land, while Call to Isolation is checking the number of Dahan in the target land. So kind of interesting. So once again, if I have 3 Dahan in this land, I can push 3 things from these adjacent lands because it's not checking the target land, it's checking the origin land, and that's something that a lot of people will miss at first if you think it's a Called Isolation clone. The next card is called Coordinated Raid. It's a 1 energy slow power sun earth animal. Once again, 1 range from a Dahan land. You get to do 1 damage, and then if Dahan are present, 1 damage. And this is if Dahan are present in the target land. So if this is the target land, we get to do 1 damage plus 1 because there's Dahan, so it's 2 damage and then enough to kill that town. Looking at the next card, we have Favors of Story and Season. It's a 1 energy fast sun, earth, plant, animal. It's targeting another player. Target spirit may gather up to 3 Dahan into one of their lands. If they have at least 3 Dahan among their lands, they gain an energy, and they may reclaim a power card instead of discarding it. This is essentially a Gift of Constancy. Now, of course, it's not as good as Gift of Constancy, but you get the benefit of starting with this card in your hand, which is incredibly powerful. This might be one of the strongest uniques in the entire game, but we'll have to wait and see. Um, Honestly, I think this card is pretty amazing thematically. Ted was talking about the theme of the card. You actually have Thunder Speaker. I think this is Thunder Speaker here, and obviously Hearth-Vigil, and this is supposed to represent um, like a moment in time where the Dahan weren't always fighting against the invaders. I guess a peaceful time. And yeah, I mean, this is just one of my favorite cards in the entire game, and you can do so many cool things with it. And then finally, we have Surrounded by the Dahan. It's a zero cost, fast moon air animal. Fast power is zero range that has to target land with Dahan. 2 fear if invaders are present, and then 1 fear if Dahan outnumber the buildings, and then you may isolate the land. So it's a way to create easy pockets and isolation effects. So how does that translate to the summary of powers? We have Surrounded, and we also have Cult of Vigilance. These are both fear generating cards, generating you that 5 fear. Then you have Call to Vigilance, which is your control card. And then you have Favors, which is utility. And then Coordinated Raid, which is your offensive tool. Looking at the special rules, we have Rooted in the Community. Blight added to your lands does not destroy your presence if Dahan are present. So that includes Ravage actions. It looks like it includes pretty much everything, which is pretty cool. So that would be like event cards, minors, majors, anything that adds Blight. Fortify Heart and Hearth. While in your lands, Dahan have +4 health each and can't be damaged, destroyed, or replaced by events and Blight card actions. This is one of my favorite texts of Hearth-Vigil because now our Dahan, instead of having 2 health, they're going to have 6 health. And once I have this strategy guide, we'll talk about kind of staying underneath this 6 health such that you can keep your Dahan alive and also counterattack and kill invaders. Um, Also, ignoring events, blight cards, all that stuff just is so cool. And it allows you to dodge a lot of those mean edge case events. Like, yeah, screw you, Relentless Optimism, killing 2 of my Dahan. Because Hearth-Vigil says, nope. Looking at the last special rule, Loyal Guardian, when all Dahan leave one of your lands, your presence may move with those Dahan. Each Dahan can bring any number of presents. This rule is so important to playing Hearth-Vigil. I cannot emphasize this enough because this is exactly how your presents move. All of the Dahan need to move. So when you're playing Thunder Speaker just says only one Dahan needs to move for presence to move with it. Hearth-Vigil cannot move presence unless all of the Dahan move, and that is critical to moving your presence around the island. So if I want to move these presents to my D5, I can't move them until my D1 is completely empty of Dahan. And I promise you, this will probably be the one rule that people forget the most about this spirit. And without this rule, if you played as if it was just Thunder Speaker, it would make the puzzle significantly easier. Looking at the growth options here, Hearth-Vigil is a 1/1/1, which means it's always placing presence. You have this reclaim 0 range, a power card gain, but you have to add a presence to Dahan, and then you have a energy button with a presence placement of 2 range. I mean, I really love all these growth options. I find myself choosing them fairly, I'd say about equally. I think 30/30/30. You might reclaim a little bit more in the late game, but both of these, the G2 and the G3, you just take so frequently, and it's not like you spam a single growth option. I really think they did a great job balancing these 3 growth options. Hearth-Vigil also gains a new spot on its tracks. It's a gather 1 Dahan into one of your lands. This is something that we've seen before, or maybe we haven't seen it before. Let me see what Trickster looks like. So Trickster's pushing Dahan out. Oh, I think Earthquake gathers as well. So I guess Earthquake can gather Dahan. But what's really cool is you start the game with it. So with this bonus Dahan movement plus your Loyal Guardian, you're going to be using these 2 effects to kind of shuttle Dahan around, shuttle your presence around. Looking at the tracks, you're going to end at 5/4. which is pretty respectable. And you get 5 elements: 2 animal, 2 sun, and an air. Now that 4 plays is essential, and then the energy. Honestly, I've played so many different builds with Hearth-Vigil. Like even going higher up on the top track is pretty awesome. To point out a really cool major, as you guys have probably seen multiple times, you have Vigor of the Breaking Dawn, that 3/2 Sun threshold. It's kind of funny because Hearth-Vigil can 1 card threshold this card, which is I find that absolutely hilarious. Um, but there's a lot of cool little major things you can do with these elements on the tracks. Okay, looking at the two innates here, we have Warn of Impending Conflict. You target yourself, and then these are the thresholds. If you have one to so you target yourself, but you don't get to actually pick the land until the ravages actually occur. So the first tier says 1 Dahan in one of your lands does damage before invaders during ravages. And then this says instead 2. This says instead all in a single land. And this says instead all in all of your lands. So this is like an ultimate, which I think is so cool. Hearth-Vigil has this kind of like, if the team builds towards it, if they support Hearth-Vigil, you can really try to leverage this crazy all Dahan ravaging first. In a way, this is like the defensive innate because it's as if the Dahan has 2 defense because it's ravaging first with this first tier, but kind of not. Um, but yeah, I absolutely love this innate, and hopefully down the line I'll be able to kind of talk about the development of Hearth-Vigil because this is one of the spirits that I spent quite a lot of time on. The addition of the 3 plays pushed up a spot. It used to be pushed back, and there's a couple other things that I was able to kind of push through, well, or at least emphasize greatly, such that they would hopefully occur. Um, so this right innate, this is a keep watch for new incursions. It's a sacred site, fast power from Dahan. It says gather up to 2 of your Dahan from your lands only. Really important. A lot of people are going to forget this rule. When you gather the Dahan from your lands, it doesn't have to be from my sacred site. It just has to be from your lands. So it could be from any land that you have presence. So if I want to gather Dahan into my D5 using that right innate, I can gather 1 here and 1 here. Now, once again, I can't gather presence into this land because I still have Dahan remaining in D1 and D7, and that's that special rule. Now you might be saying, well, I'm going to use my left innate now in that mountain next turn. Well, now you can't because you target yourself and you need presence in that land. So as you can see, the puzzle is extremely complex with this spirit. So the other 2 tiers of keep watch for new incursions. It says once this turn, after invaders are added or moved into target land, 1 damage per Dahan in target land to those added or moved invaders. So this is kind of like a call to guard, which is another minor. Let's pull that up. It's kind of not minor, call to guard. It's kind of like it, but not exactly. Um, but when invaders are moved to this land, they're going to take damage equal to the Dahan in that land. So if, for instance, I play like Call to Vigilance, right, to push invaders into that land, I have 3 Dahan in this land. So that means when invaders are added to that land next, they will take that 3 damage. That would cause them to be destroyed. And then if you get this last threshold, you get to do this whole part of the innate again. Once again, this bonus, Loyal Guardian, and then finally this right innate. This is how you're going to be moving Dahan and kind of maneuvering your presence. As I mentioned previously, Hearth-Vigil is one of my favorite spirits in the entire game. I look forward to putting together the guide and showing you guys all of the crazy things you can do with this spirit. Um, this is going to be a spirit that if you like playing reactive, if you like waiting and watching what the invaders are doing and then planning around that, this is the spirit for you. It's not that proactive compared to like Behemoth, but you're going to be using that right innate to ambush the invaders by moving Dahan in, and then you're going to be using that left innate to fight back and counterattack in lands with Dahan before the invaders strike back. Once the invaders are established, it's going to be tough to kind of uproot those invaders, and that's going to be, I guess, Hearth-Vigil's weakness, or one of the things that Hearth-Vigil is going to have issues with. So if you like being proactive, This is not a spirit for you. If you like this video, like, subscribe for more content. I will see you guys in the next video.